So
But of
just a
course,
short test for
if you
the
want to
recording.
do
Got two people on the wrong server at the moment. Just send them the correct link. Hope they will get it. I think some people might arrive because just had a phone call or wrong service, so maybe we should just wait a bit.
Hello.
Hello, Alexander.
And before we start, I would specially welcome Meika Gus, as you see her with her nickname in here. She's a lady from Berlin who was crazy enough to drive all the way down from Berlin to Lampedusa by ferry boat, by a little truck. She had one of the sprinter things packed full, really full with secondhand life raft she picked up somewhere on the north coast here. Crazy trip, but nearly without sleeping at all. So we had the possibility to get out as fast as possible, back out at sea to rescue people. Hi, Micah. Nice to meet you here.
Welcome.
Same for me.
Chapeau, Micah.
So it's 10 parts. Should we give it a start? Everybody's got Pat for tonight? I'll just send it around again. Here you are.
Yeah, we'll probably have to. Sorry, Thomas.
Sorry?
Oh, I was just gonna say we'll probably have to send that a couple times, especially if more people come in later. So like with the pad there, if you want to write down any questions that you have, or even just your name, and we can make a speakers list for after after Adam is done speaking, people who have questions and statements and stuff. Go ahead and write your name down on the pad, and we will make sure you get to speak.
Yes, for sure. Are we ready to mumble? Well, better speaking. I think we are. I give it a start, Bastian. You will do the recording as well? No, he's not available, so I'll just do it. So, hello. Today is the 16th of July in 2018. Well, we now have 21:12 CST. I'm happy to welcome, first of all, Adam Wolf, a former captain to a rescue vessel in the Mediterranean in the past, very known about it. Some guests who do have experience on the subject, and we know there have been some not very slight problems, big problems on the Mediterranean over the last weeks, which is still ongoing. Like people, like countries rejecting people rescued out of this unsay. So I believe this is a matter of the utmost importance there because there are just life at stakes. And I believe I'm quite happy to have Adam here to give an overview what's really going on and about the issues delivered even by the media and the I just used the word, though I still don't like it, fake news published on this, but I believe these fake news are just given by governments, etc., for reasons. And I'm also happy to welcome Bailey, who will PPI as the moderator for today. And I say, well, just words to it, and I believe Bailey, you will take over, and will lead us through the night. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. So we have a pad that Thomas set up for us. A couple new people just came in, so why don't we send that in the chat again so that everybody has it. I'm just gonna pass this off to Adam here in a second, but if you guys have any questions or any statements, anything you want to say after Adam gives us kind of the brief overview of things. Write your name down in the pad there, and we'll form a speakers list, and we'll make sure that everybody gets to say what they want to say. All right, yeah. Adam, go for it. It's all yours.
Yep, hi. Welcome everyone to this first actually conference about SAR in the Mediterranean Sea in the last few years. As you all might know, it all more or less started in 2015 when a sudden and very surprising movement started from North Africa towards Europe. It happened on 3 parts of the Mediterranean Sea, starting on the west side from Morocco and Algeria towards Spain, which used to be a refugee route for many, many years, but it's kind of an accepted one, more or less, because a lot of people from North Africa come to Spain to work in the fruit fields and in harvests and go back after a few months to spend the money they made in Spain with their families. Also, this increased incredibly much within a very short time. It multiplied by 20, 30 within a few months. And the Spanish authorities didn't really know how to handle it, but more or less opened the borders and the south coast to let people come in. That was in the beginning. There was a second much worse road from North Africa, from Libya, out towards a small island in the south of Italy called Lampedusa, which is about halfway from Sicily to Libya. Suddenly, hundreds and hundreds of boats left off the coast of Libya every night with 300, 400 people on board. Most of them totally unseaworthy rubber boats, kind of Zodiacs made in China, like glued together wild and fast and brought by cargo planes into Libya on huge containers, hundreds of them, and they were sold in a kind of a kit with an outboard engine, a copy of a Yamaha outboard engine, a cheap Chinese plastic thing that worked usually for a few hours before it died and left people totally immobilized out there right in the middle of nowhere with high waves and totally lost at sea. That still goes on like that, by the way. Then there was the eastern way from Turkey to Greece, to the Greek islands, and then through Greece and the Balkan towards north, where a lot of people were coming across. A lot of people died on the way over because some of them, as most people who came, were from Syria and from the Near East, and they couldn't swim. They never actually really tried to. So a lot of people died on the way over, and the Eastern Greek islands close to the Turkish coast were very welcoming with these people and received them with open arms. They gave them treatment, they gave them housing. It was on the beginning in 2015 a huge and big warm welcome all over Europe to these people who flew from their African countries for what reasons ever. There were a lot of them. I think that's a topic we can discuss maybe later or at another stage. The problem started to become so immense within a very short time that really hundreds of people died out there, and that was only the amount of people that were observed and disappeared. No one knows how many thousand people actually died out there in the Mediterranean, in this part between North Africa and Europe. Excuse me, did you interrupt me? Okay, so I just go on. On the beginning, there were a lot of warships down there between the North African and the European coast from all the NATO countries, and a lot of British boats, actually, a few German ones, and all these marine ships, all these sea forces tried to rescue people in this time. They all did their really best. We can't blame them. We can't criticize them. We've been rescuing people out of really fucked up situations side by side with warships from a lot of different countries. They actually didn't talk about it in these countries because it already in this time was politically not very well a good idea to talk about this kind of humanitarian actions. And then the problem became so huge, and the official rescue organizations, SNR. They were completely lost with the amount of people coming across. And then the first people in Germany, in Berlin, a young man, started to organize friends, spend some money, get some fundraising, got some fundraising and quite some money together, bought a boat, an old fishing vessel in Holland that was there like a one of these lifeboats, standing there, someone living on them for ages. It was quite an old steel boat, and they built it up on the northern coast of Germany within a very short time, just a few months. It was rebuilt and redone, and started the trip around the Bay of Biscay, around France, around Spain, into the Mediterranean Sea, and down to the rescue area. That took them a few months, but brought them a lot of publicity, a lot of help, and a lot of support of people who said, finally, someone just does something. And well, they got there, actually, and I jumped on that boat in July 2015 as a skipper. I just offered my knowledge as a captain, and I've done things like that before in my life in other parts of the world. And out we were with a boat that was hardly seaworthy, but noisy, not climatized, with 50 degrees in the shadow, dying out there nearly from heat. We had no rescue abilities at all whatsoever, because it was a very small boat, only like 25 meters long, the Sea-Watch 1. And what we could do was find people out there, find boats in a emergency situation, and then call the next rescue station, which was in Italy. MRCC Rome was our partner in the rescue of most of these people. So we called them, we gave them positions, and well, as much as they could, they sent lifeboats from Lampedusa. They kind of brought a few more of these boats down from the Italian coast, but they were out all the time. And the skippers of these boats, they were incredible. They were, most of them, family fathers, and they didn't get home for a month, really. They were doing nothing else than up and down, just picking people up somehow and get the survivors, and evacuated the dead bodies they could find. And well, or what we did was stopping cargo ships, because within international regulations for safety and rescue at sea, any vessel out there is obliged under any circumstance to rescue someone who is known for being in danger for his safety, security, life, or health. There's a whole lot of regulations for that kind out there at sea. And well, actually, then there was MSF coming also the same way. Doctors Without Borders, they started with the first boat they sent out there, Aquarius, quite a big ship, and they really also could pick up people. They weren't just calling for help, they could themselves rescue people and bring them to Italy. And they had another two boats within a very short time. They brought down there. Suddenly, a lot of people were down there, actually, a lot of organizations. And little by little, we managed to more or less control the situation. That was 2015. Since then, these organizations did their work without making a lot of noise, did fundraising, got a lot of money together after a time, spent it all on rescue operations, sometimes with the help of the European countries, and little by little, in the last 3 years, with less support from the countries around the Mediterranean Sea, because then the governments of Italy, of Greece, and some other countries drifted in their position towards migrants, generally more to the right, and suddenly the discussion started. And then, first of all, the first rescue operations that were organized by the European Union were dropped. There was no more money for it. So on the end of the day, there was only the military forces out there, and they also little by little were pulled back to their countries. The situation ended up in this year, what you all have heard, I guess, that all the civil SAR ships in the Mediterranean Sea that are there to rescue people along the coast or out there at sea where they can pick them up, are hindered to leave the harbors. They are hooked on a chain in Malta and in Italy. So right now there's only a few rescue vessels from the Italian Navy out there. I believe, as far as I know, some of the captains, they do their very best they can, but every night and every day out there, there's people drowning, thousands in the last month. And that's where we are now. We have capacities, we have lots of boats, we have possibilities, we have the money, we have the boats full of material that can be used to pull people out of their emergency situation, and they are not allowed to leave the harbors. That's our actual situation. So now your first questions, please.
Okay, so there is one question on the pad there right now. It's a question from Ray, and he asked, do you think that parts of the influx in 2015 was simply because of the EU fruit and food producers needing cheap labor, or was much of it because of the US-driven conflict in Syria?
No, that is a very political question. I wouldn't blame the US or any other country for fueling the conflicts. We all know that there are lots of different interests in Syria and Iraq and all the other Near East countries. And then Inner Africa has mainly problems with ecological disasters right now. No more rain for the last many, many years, and that will not change. Even if the wars will be ending there, or the local warlords will find a way of coexisting with each other. Still, there is no way of surviving anymore. I mean, 20 years ago, there was a huge zone south of Sahel of the Sahara that was fertile green lands, and now it's just sand. And just this fact alone is enough to make people go. And where do they go? They can't go south. There is nothing there in the south. And as you all know, what changed compared to 20 years ago or 30 years ago is the communication possibilities people have. A lot of people went to Europe, and they got here and they made their living somehow, found a way of surviving and could support their families in Africa. And of course, they communicated. And there was a certain effect related to that, because they didn't really talk a lot about the negative aspects of being a refugee in Europe. And so thousands and thousands of people started to cross the Sahara, and thousands of people also died on the way through the Sahara towards North Africa. And the people who arrived in the north, in a country like Libya, who was a country who had employment before the fall of the regime in oil, in industrial, in many other things. A lot of Central African people worked in Libya and went back after a year or two. That was a very normal way of making a living there. And suddenly they ended up in refugee camps, huge refugee camps south of Tripolis, where before that there were people from Palestine and from the Near East hosted, and from 200,000 people in these two camps south of Tripolis, suddenly there were 2 million people. And you can imagine the effect that has. What another problem, talking about the US, the American Sixth Fleet close to Naples, as I said before, is controlling every square millimeter of Mediterranean waters or surface on the North African coast. Totally clear, without even talking about it. They did not take part in the rescue of even one person they knew out there was in troubles. So, and that was going back to 2014, 15 already, and they just don't mingle. It's something they keep out completely, even knowing against any international sea law that there are people in trouble, and that maybe might be an argument.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Adam. So there was a question kind of just off of the last one, asking where many of the refugees are coming from. Is it Syria? And I think you said, yeah, it's a lot from Syria and, generally the Middle East and North Africa. Am I right?
Well, there was several waves of people fleeing their countries. One of the biggest one in this time came from Eritrea and Ethiopia. There was a huge stream of people going through the desert towards Libya. That was one thing because of the rough dictatorship in these countries. The second wave was from the Sahel area, as I said before, in an area where people couldn't make a living anymore in any way because of natural disasters. The third wave, as you all know, was Syria, Iraq, in the Near East because of the outbreaking war between the different ethnic groups and the resources that are found there. And these different people, there were different languages, cultures, and totally different reasons also to leave their countries. They mingled up in the north of Africa, and all of them came more or less together in Libya before the eastern route was opened, where the Iraqi people could go through Turkey, paying a lot of money, and then trying to float across to the Greek islands.
Excellent, thank you. Hang on here. So the same person who asked the last question asked, I think what they mean, how many people do you think will come to us?
No, this is a question I can't answer. I think seeing it from the point of view of a journalist and a historical point of view and an internationalist point of view, as I am with I've been working all around the world in so many countries. I guess the time of borders, of national states is over. There is still a lot of counter movements against that right now. The regions that are trying to close down, like Catalonia, once had borders, and other parts of Europe, especially. But basically, I think these are just like kind of last resistances in Europe, especially, or also in the US. We can see that all over the world. Maybe the Rohingya in Southeast Asia, or the Latin community coming to the north of America and stuff like that. It's everywhere. It's moving. People are moving, and movement is part of culture, and this culture is what we're benefiting from. I think it might take another 100 years, maybe another 150 years until the world is more or less balanced. I think what we can do is try to control the movement a little bit and try to make economically intelligent decisions to incorporate people who come here into our countries, give them perspectives, and cooperate with their countries of origin, so that these countries notice how powerful they are. Because some of the places where people leave, where they escape, like in South America, if you see Colombia, if you see Venezuela right now, these countries are among the richest countries in the world. Natural resources, oil, whatever, you name it. If these countries notice and learn that they are very powerful on their own, if they fight corruption and we help them doing that, I think the transition from national states to a world, to a real world without borders, might be more or less a soft one. Even I doubt it, seeing all the right-wing tendencies in Europe right now, who are dead afraid of changes, of mixing up, of having different cultures around them, different languages, different food, and talking a lot about integration, that kind of stuff. People who come here have to be like we are, otherwise we don't accept them, things like that. All this is its deepest 20th century, I think. And if I learned something in the world, then it's that you can't stop a river. You will never be able to. And the waters will mix. And actually, for myself, I'm looking forward to it. I like the idea very much.
Yeah, I think you make a really interesting point about just the rise of far right and attitudes, just discriminatory attitudes towards immigrants and refugees, the racism. It's rampant everywhere, it seems, right now. I'm in Canada, and we have accepted a lot of refugees here, and there is certainly resistance to that. And not just your average racist, but we have neo-Nazis on the rise. Even government officials now are speaking out. We have in Ontario, where I live, we just had an election here, and a guy called Doug Ford became our premier, and he's already bitching about the refugees, and just creating that that really harsh kind of culture, that just makes it very hard for newcomers to Canada, and the same kind of thing is happening in Europe. Just people saying that no, we can't have refugees here, and if they come over here, then they have to be exactly like us. They have to assimilate into our culture. Yeah, it's happening everywhere, and I think it's really important that people understand that. But bottom line, regardless of all of the politics around it, regardless of imperialism and all of that stuff, I mean, US intervention, all of that, regardless, bottom line, these are human beings who are taking great risk by traveling across the Mediterranean to get to safety. And they definitely deserve our support. Next question. Just find it here. Is there an effect now of trying to get people used to the death of other humans by media influence? And why do they want this? Why is this effect an advantage for future governments?
Now, that is one of the most actual questions we all ask here in Germany, especially. Also in Italy or in Hungary or in Polonia or wherever you go right now, the discussion seriously go in a direction where the legitimacy of letting people consciously die out there is a topic in political discussions. And that is very shocking. That's really a quantum jump here. I mean, something that never happened before. No one ever doubted that you have to give a hand to a person who is who falls in the water beside you. May it be a river or a sea or a lake, whatever. That someone who is about to die, you ought to help. There is no questions about it. That was like a basic human behavior pattern in the last centuries. Even in the worst times of the Second World War, when a submarine sank a ship, they tried to rescue the people. The last few who were afloat, I mean, it's a little bit crazy, but even then, if you saw that someone is drowning beside you, you tried to help. And this is starting to become the center of discussion right now between the conservatives. And I'm not talking about the very far right-wing ones. I'm talking about that the center of political discussions went to the right generally. And that is the problem we have. If you really, even within the Pirate Party, find people you have to discuss with whether it is not a good idea to let someone die, because the arguments are very easy. You let a few of them die, a few hundred, a few thousand, and then the rest knows that there's no way to come across, and they stay at home. It's as simple as that. But just to discuss that kind of issue on a base of letting people die right in front of your eyes, you can watch them die. That has changed, and I'm very much afraid that this kind of discussion will become a way of treating political conflict between the right, the left, between the right and the far right, because we already are there. And when I hear that, I can't believe it sometimes, in public discussions, in talk shows, in all kinds of stuff. And that makes me scared, actually.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that. I don't really understand how it's a conversation to begin with. People are dying, and that should be enough. you know, to for people to understand the situation and why it's important to support refugees and immigrants who come to your country. But you know, people have this attitude, you know, most people who are generally pretty safe and comfortable where they're at, who look at it and say, oh well, you know, that's tragic, but you know, maybe they won't say it outright, but basically what they say is, well, they're foreigners, so they don't matter as much as we do. And I've also noticed that part of that attitude is, at least here in Canada, what I see is that people are very they seem to have this idea that if you accept uh immigrants and refugees, particularly from Muslim countries, that they're going to come over and completely change Canadian society. And I know that this is an idea, this is a mindset that is very prevalent in Europe too. People saying that, oh well, they're going to come over and change our society and our culture, and we're going to lose our human rights. And it's such bullshit. But this is what people believe, and it is scary. And we do have to combat that somehow, even if it's just talking to people one on one. But yeah, it's a very scary attitude for sure, and it has real life consequences, as we're seeing and discussing right now. So the next question we have here, did Italy take more of the work, I guess referring to taking in refugees, than any other EU country?
Let's say it that way. Italy was the first country where people arrived. They did, and they still do, even if they are politically opposing it now, most of the work for especially the people who come from North Africa, Central North Africa, from Bolivia. Yes, that is true. But that is the first, this first aid thing, when people arrive and you have to give them first shelter, a place to sleep and stuff like that. Yes. But a lot of refugees know that Italy is not really the place to find work and to stay, because Italy also is economically not that stable. And so they, as soon as they are there, they're registered. After a few days, they start to head north. Greece is the second country, I think, as welcoming as Italy was or is, where people arrive from Turkey and from Egypt even now. There's a new southern area where people come up a route. And I think Germany, from the number of refugees who finally ended up here in this country, where they were given shelter and a place to stay, and all the paperwork done. I think was the country, or is the country, with the highest amount of people arriving. But still, we have the Dublin 1 and 2 treaty, where people have to ask for visa or for asylum in the country they arrived in Europe. So right now the discussion is clearly that these laws, these Dublin 1, 2, and 3 laws, are applied in Germany very radically, because we have a political change here, heading to the right very fast right now, and shockingly fast. So people are forced to go back to the country where they first touched land in Europe, and seek their process of integration, or doing their paperwork there. And right now they're trying to bring people all across Europe from one country to the other. And it's highly problematic, because Italy also doesn't want to take everyone back who went through Italy into other countries, of course. And that is the central point of discussion in the European Union right now, and in the European Commission, that there is no fair treatment or treaty to give certain number of people a chance to stay in certain countries of Europe, like codes, a certain number or whatever, because a lot of countries in Europe, they don't take part in it. Poland is, I think, the most radical against it. They don't even have, I think, 200 refugees or so. Then Hungary, most of the eastern countries of Europe are like that. Britain is also cutting off nearly completely. France also has less and less people coming in, and things like that. And that's the main problem. People are starting to travel through Europe without any hope to find a safe and sheltered place right now.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting thing for people to know. We actually have the same kind of thing in Canada and with the US too. It's called the Safe Third Country Agreement, and basically what it is exactly what Adam described. If a refugee goes to the US, for example, first, then that person cannot come to Canada and seek asylum here because they're already considered safe in the US. And the situation in Europe, the question about Italy and these countries that are, are taking in a lot, or have, historically taken in a lot of refugees because this is the first place that they land. I mean, this is a policy issue because, Italy doesn't want to take any more refugees, but it's also against the law for the refugees to go and seek asylum in another country because, there's that kind of safe third country agreement. I don't know the exact name of the EU law, but I know it's pretty much the same one that we have over in North America. So that's a policy issue. That's a serious policy issue that really needs to get scrapped entirely from, in my opinion, if any of this is going to get resolved in any way. On one hand, like all people, all human beings deserve a safe place to exist, no matter what country that is in. At the same time, you get these, these far right, these fascist governments, these countries that are, so anti-immigration now and anti-refugee. They don't want to take people, but it's in the law, and it's just, yeah, I mean, that's just really something that people have to consider, especially those people who like to spew their racist rhetoric about refugees. The next question here is I'm trying to see if this is a question or a statement. Okay, so combined North Africa and the 12 million displaced in Syria gave Europe just a taste of what we are about to see in the future. War creates refugees and migration. Do you think that man-made environmental destruction will make the last 3 years look like a small problem?
Well, I refuse to answer that question. This is exactly the question that every talk show in Central Europe is asking anyone from the far right to the far left, and the answers are in between. Yeah, we'll be run over on one side, and on the other hand, no, things will regulate themselves. So, but it's a very dangerous way of thinking, being afraid of the masses that will come and conquer Europe, and that kind of images that are created with these kind of questions. And I think we should rather see where the hugest and most extensive refugee camps in the world are. They are not in Europe, not at all. See South Turkey, see Syria, parts of Syria, see Lebanon, one of the biggest of all of them, or places that are in Central Africa, in Uganda, in neighbor countries, most of them, and we're talking about 2, 3, 4 million people. We're not talking about in the last 3 years since these migration waves started in 2015. In Central Europe, we had around 1 million migrants coming to Germany on the end of the day. In a country of 80 million people, and with a huge lack of people working here. But the real problems are in the countries that are not able to help themselves like that, and they require a lot of help and a lot of funds from international organizations to let people survive in these huge camps. And I don't think that that discussion is a serious point of political whatever discussion right now.
Yeah, I think you make a good point about the nature of questions like that. I don't know if that was a troll question or a real one, but yeah, I think people need to ask themselves what, like, regardless, like why do you get to be safe and other people don't? Like, because they're foreigners? No, that's bullshit. It's just bullshit. So the next question we have here, now I don't know what the Evian conference is, but there's a question about that. Is the Evian conference, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right, guys, so I'm sorry. Is the Evian conference from 1938 in a way repeating itself, though no international conference on refugees has taken place? This considering the behavior given by Italy, Spain, etc.
Well, there are parallels. Also in 1938, millions of people were on their way through Europe to escape the National Socialists in Germany and the expansion. And this conference made it impossible for them to cross borders and to be accepted as refugees in other countries. And the effect, we all know, 7 million Jewish people were killed, and more than 40 million people, direct or indirect, were killed by this war in Central Europe. What more is there to say about that?
Fair enough. All right, the next question we have here, you might have covered this, but the question is, isn't there a law in the international sea law where ships have to save these people or inform the sea guards? Even in wars, the warships rescued their destroyed enemy ship's crew.
Yes, there is. There is 3 treatments around the world. The most important of them being SOLAS, SOLAS, if you want to Google it, which has the Article 5 that shows and presents the regulations of helping people in distress out at sea. There is no argument against that. Anyone who is in distress, anyone who is in the risk of losing life, health, or their transportation medium under them is to be helped immediately. So, and this is, by the way, not only international sea treaty or law. It's wherever you live, guys, in your countries. If you see an accident on any road and you see that there are people hurt, that is someone that turned over car or something, if you cross, if you just go on, you can be sued for that. You know that. And the same thing happens out at sea also. What happens right now, avoiding rescuing people from emergency situation is against any international or national law right now.
Thank you for that. So the last thing on the list here isn't so much of a question, more of a statement by the looks of it. But somebody said, I feel it is a similar stigma effect as when AIDS came into effect, it caused a lot of discrimination, and even politicians wanted to isolate all AIDS victims on islands or lock them in clinics. I think that's, yeah, clinics. So that was more of a statement. Do you have any comment on that, Adam?
Well, just that you can't compare one thing with the other, as simple as that. I don't want to compare a disease like AIDS with a flow of people fleeing their countries because of war or starvation. That is nothing you can compare, actually.
Yep. So that, and somebody did just write a question. What is our task as pirates?
Oh, that is a nice question. If you all agree with me that what happens right now is against any international law and any rules of social uh, behavior between human beings, then we should get very loud right now. We should get everyone together who has any idea of legal battles and try to sue the European Union or the authorities in Malta or the authorities in Italy or however. Bring a team together who is trying to develop a concept so that we officially, in the name of the European or the world's pirates, are insisting in that these laws, these international basic laws of humanity, are respected again. And if they don't, then we have to sue them.
All right. Well, yeah, I definitely agree with that. So what are the next steps then? How do we go about that? What can we take what should we take from this meeting and start doing right now? Is there a first step?
Create a task force of people who would like to help in this case and who also have the capacities of maybe to a legal fight on longer terms. But I would like to hear of anyone else in here on the microphones. Just try to give a little statement what you guys think.
I'll do step up first because written something down. I believe that's obsolete afterwards. I believe that organizations like us, the Power Parties International, should help out and give an out try, so to say, being public on social media, whatever, to and even help out other organizations in communications, etc., to the press, to governments, etc. Well, saying out aloud, this is inhumane what's going on at the moment, and trying public opinion in all means, or with all means, sorry.
Is there anyone else who would like to say something?
Why do all the refugees actually come in inflatable boats? Why don't they start ballooning like other people have escaped other lands in balloons? And it's also a very cheap and effective way to travel around the world. And if the winds are very, very good on a certain type of the year, you could get loads of people landing with balloons directly in the countries that are protected from the Dublin Agreement. So they're going to stop it anyway because it's useless if you start ballooning instead of boating. Do we want to build a pirate balloon?
What we have to do, what we should do, if we would be in a position to decide what to do about that, is creating legal immigration ways to Europe, to the US, to all the northern countries, directly in the countries of origin. So people have the possibility to go there and without a lot of effort, get a visa and get a transport to the countries. No one would have to die anymore. Another possibility would be offering ferry trips across the Mediterranean. Even if people are stuck in Italy, in Greece, in Spain, wherever, in camps where they can do their first paperwork, they would be able just to take a ferry boat and not have to give everything they have in life for a half sinking rubber boat anymore. Finding and financing and presenting and offering legal and safe ways to come to our countries.
I was thought about maybe making a crowdsource, so all the people who are like pro-saving people or trying to help refugees, that we sort of crowdsource a tourist ship somewhere, who tours the Mediterranean, normally with luxury people and drinking champagne and shit like that, on all sorts of wonderful life shit. And we booked the whole boat, and they pick up refugees and come back to Europe with them. And they take our tickets that we bought, what we crowdsourced.
Financing is not the real problem. Bureaucracy and permissions and closed borders are the problem, actually.
Bureaucracy and racism. Now imagine if we got over both. If we got rid of both, everything, the world would be so much better.
Yep. So you will find my profile on the German Pirate Party's webpage. You can find me in a lot of publications. Just put my name, Bruno Adam Wolf. A lot is published about me. I published a lot of stuff, so you will find me. If someone seriously would like to start a little task force to talk about that more often and maybe finding ways how we can interfere together with other supporting pirates, it would be very nice if you could contact me.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think that there will be more meetings like this one in the future?
I would love to do that if you guys are interested in it, and if we can get an audience together, people who are interested in this topic and would like to engage in some action or activities, then it would be a great idea. What do you guys think?
Well, to be honest, I would have liked to give them much the invite much more in advance, but it was just a bit late, and just the idea just showed up last week. So I believe there was, due to the time schedule, there aren't that many people here today. I believe we should repeat the meeting in a way, maybe in a fortnight, you name it, plus inviting people to help out. And I believe everybody on this channel is eager to help out in what way ever.
Absolutely.
I think there'll be a lot of discussion about this elsewhere as well at the moment, and we have to find other discussion groups and maybe get bigger.
Yeah, and this is just a thought, but EU elections are happening. I think it's 2019, right? Is that it?
Yeah, plus, to be honest, even for the program, we're just evolving the program. Even this part of the subject is on the run at the moment.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking, because we have PPEU, right? They're going to be organizing for the election, and people are going to run. That this might be something to collaborate with them on.
That we will, because even Adam is responsible for the European election on Power Party of Germany, for example. So we're on close contact, so to speak.
That's great. Yeah, like I mean, obviously, you know, you will have like our task force here, right? Of all of us who want to help out. But PPEU is probably a very good connection to have, and you know, because while they're doing their campaigning and stuff, this is probably something to bring to people's attention. Maybe it could become part of their platform. Who knows? But that's just an idea. But I think that it's a really good start having this meeting and having everybody here. And you know, clearly people are interested in this topic. We just need people to keep coming and to keep discussing and keep contributing, really.
Yes,
Yeah.
Bailey, it's hard to think about a concrete task force, but I think beneath PPEU we will meet this weekend at Barcelona, and I think can prepare a declaration, but also for the PPI meeting in Munich. It will be a good idea to have an international declaration about this topic.
Fuck yeah!
Yeah.
Sorry.
Plus plus helping out other organizations who are really involved in the Mediterranean, for example, to help them out on other issues and even call up people, you name it.
To go further on longer term, why don't we actually really try to get a refugee meeting together somewhere in the European Union, a big conference where we invite representatives of the organizations like Sea-Watch, like MSF and things like that, and do a real big refugee conference and take the topic for us.
Put it simple, I believe the PPI will just take over, and well, all we need is a venue. It's a place to go to, and people who are at the place, and well, the rest is covering the costs. For the rest, we'll just go for it, no problem.
Do you mind, Bailey?
Go for it.
I believe that I do believe that the PPI has not yet formally decided where we're holding our General Assembly yet. I think that will happen in the next couple of weeks, and I, for one, would love for that to happen in Munich. And the idea I thought I heard floated was that we have some kind of place where we talk about refugees and the real problem that it is. Maybe we could combine the two things, 10, 12, 15 September with PPI General Assembly and something more of what we're doing today? Question mark.
Well, Ray, I'm with you in parts. The rest, having such a conference, I will just say, well, it should be apart from any general assembly. This is a special topic, an own topic, and considering the word by Adam, well, there needs to be some preparation, but I believe Adam got the context as well. Setting up some kind of conference and even pushing it with the media. That can be done aside from it everywhere in Europe. All we need to have is a place, a venue, and I believe I just believe it could be Hanover because Adam is in Hanover and has got his contact as well.
Did you say Hanover?
Yeah, I just said Hanover because Adam is situated in Hanover.
Thank you. I just didn't hear it clearly. Sorry.
Yeah, we have great locations here actually for a lot of people. We could do that. I have lots of material. I can do a show with pictures, with texts, with all kinds of stuff. And with my contacts, I can get representatives of most of the organization here. Maybe we can even do it fractional with other parties who are in the topic.
Definitely should go for not letting out other people. This is a common subject, though we are parts international. Who cares? This is about people, and we shouldn't set other people apart helping. So this should be a joint conference. And if we just go for having the lead, so what?
Yeah, so I think that I definitely think that it's a good idea to have a conference. You know, maybe at this around the same time as the GA, the PPI GA when we do it. That would be really cool if we had everybody already in the same place for the PPI conference and then being able to add this as part of it. I mean, yeah, like this is an important issue, and I do think it's a pirate issue. I mean, pirates are or should be anti-fascist, and you know, because it's not related to copyright doesn't mean it's not an issue for us. And it's yeah, I think that that's a brilliant idea. We should definitely do a lot of prep work between now and then. We'll want to meet a couple more times probably before then. But I think that we should see what we can make happen in terms of having a conference, getting all the pirates together, for a GA, and lots of other cool stuff, not just going through the bureaucratic shit that we always do at every GA, but actually, I for the next GA, I really want it to be full of good content and fun activity that actually brings people together, builds solidarity, gets people interested and working on important issues. And I think that this is a really, really, really fucking important one. And we need to mobilize. And yeah, I'm kind of rambling at this point, so I'm very sorry for that, you guys, but I'm just really excited about this idea.
Yeah, thank you, Baileys. That was really great. By the way, the last question I can read here: are you running in the EU elections, Adam? No, I don't. I was at the General Assembly here in Germany. We created our bunch of candidates we have, and I think we have some really good people doing that. I am not able to run for that right now because I'm bringing up 2 kids on my own. I have 2 mandates in 2 parliaments, and I'm on top of it working 8 hours a day. So this would be way too early for me.
Can anybody tell me real quick, is Hanover a real long way away from Munich?
Depends on flight, an hour. The rest, I believe, 3 to 4 hours. Depends on the traffic.
Right. So could we have something along these lines before or after the PPI? What Bailey said, having good people in the same region at the same time would probably be a really good idea.
Yeah, well, heading up from Munich, I'm just being blunt, won't work out that very weekend, even the week before and the week after. So Hanover, a week before might be the best idea, having that conference first and going up to the General Assembly. And I know, I'm in contact with Adam as well. He's part of the alternate board members of I2. So I believe just fix the date, and Hanover, I believe, will be much helpful. For example, might be another place, but I believe that might be up to Adam to decide because it's a sole conference on a certain subject, inviting other people, and Adam is situated in Hanover. He's got his contacts. So let's work on it, and we see the results very soon, and I believe we'll have some after talk with Adam as well. Just to see that it will be a successful conference, having all the people on board, and I believe we will always also invite, so to say, politicians being responsible to the conference, telling them what they are wrong about. Having that in mind as an international conference.
Are you saying get all the asshole politicians who are letting this shit happen and bring them to our events so we can shame them? Because if that's what you're saying, I think I just kind of love that a little bit.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The problem is that I'm living in a province called Lower Saxony and a capital called Hanover, where from the far left to the relative right, you won't find anyone who would say a word against refugees. This is, in this case, a really great place. We have our far right people, the AfD party, and another small local party that are the way they are everywhere. They are radicals on the right and nearly on the border to fascists. But the central parties, all the other ones, are very, very open-minded and very friendly to the idea of refugees. And they also now opened up and wanted to accept people from the last boat full of people who were rescued in the central Mediterranean Sea. They offered it without being asked.
Wow.
Okay, I'll just ask, let's go for it. Adam will have some talks about it, even with the guy board, and see if that we set up such a conference soon, very, very soon.
Yeah, we can work out the details a little bit later on, but I think it's really good that we're talking about it and we have kind of a general idea of what we want to see happen next.
Yes,
Yeah.
Bailey. Perhaps we can schedule now the next meeting here. I think it's a good idea to have next meeting perhaps at the yes.
Next meeting? Yeah, like, do we want to decide on it right now?
Yes, I will propose perhaps why not meet next Monday at the same time, same place.
I am definitely cool with that. What about you guys?
Well, guys, I am afraid I will be on holidays in Austria in the mountains at this Monday next week then.
Oh,
Austria?
okay.
Well, I'm from Austria. I'm from the mountains, so that's why I'm going to see mom and my 5 million relatives there.
That's amazing. So what about how long are you away for, Adam? When do you think you'll be back?
I'll be out only for a week, so the Monday after would be perfect.
Okay.
Awesome.
That's the
So
30th.
sorry guys.
The 30th.
The 30th. Yeah, okay. So the 30th at the same time then. The 30th at 9 p.m. Central European Summertime. How's that?
Perfect.
All right. Well, it's set then. Adam, you cool?
I'm very happy about that. Oh, we're moving. Guys, we're moving.
Excellent.
So I'd say, well, thank you for moderating the meeting today, Bailey. Well, it was great fun to have you moderating, and thanks to Adam participating and, well, telling us the truth, what's going on at the moment. I believe you will do even more in the future. And if we found a way to move forward, so I believe this was just a great meeting today. Thanks a lot to all you all.
Yeah, guys, thanks for your interest. I'm totally surprised that building up something like that in such a short time. We started talking about it like 4 days ago, right, Thomas? Or 3 days ago, even? That so many people came up and are interested in the topic. And I'm really hoping that something really good will come out of that. And well, I'm out now and I see you guys in 2 weeks, same time, same place. Thanks so much. And thank you, Bailey, for your moderation.
No problem. Thank you for having me. I was planning on attending anyway, but when Thomas asked me to moderate, I'm just like, yeah. This is a great meeting. Thank you, Adam, for being here and for telling us about your experience, for sharing your knowledge. Thank you for getting the ball rolling on this very important topic. Thank you, everybody who came and asked questions or made statements. Just before we go, just another reminder, the next meeting for this will be exactly 2 weeks from today. So that's July 30th at 9 p.m. Central European Summertime. And yeah, we will continue the conversation then. In the meantime, fuck borders, fuck fascists, fuck racists, and refugees welcome.
Yeah. And you find more links, little movies and stuff, information about the different organizations in here in Mumble in the communication window. Pasted in, you find my Facebook page. Sorry, I have Facebook, where you find a lot of links and a lot of information about that. So, and if you need anything, guys, if you want to know something, you need a contact, please contact me directly. It's no problem. I can also easily give you my phone number then, or so my cell phone number. You'll find it publicly anyway, everywhere.
So